Neil, thank you for taking the time to speak with us prior to leaving for COP28. And congratulations again on joining Low Carbon as their head of capital formation. Now, of course, the scheduled COP will focus on a myriad of climate-related initiatives, but we also know that to reach net zero by 2050, we'll need to catalyze private investments and climate finance to make the energy transition less a catchphrase and more a reality that stands a chance. With your decades of experience in the industry, how does that goal change or affect how you do your job? And what are global investors communicating to you about their desire or even ability to be part of the solution?
Yep. First of all, thanks, Jen. It's nice to see you. And I'm excited because I head off next week to Dubai for quite a few days of meetings and catching up with investors. So I'll get a real sense on the ground, I think. So there's a sense of excitement. I think, as we know, these meetings are a process. They require a lot of engagement. I think what's important is having the private sector involved. And if you look at low carbon, where I am now, low carbon was established with one goal, which was to basically change the world, fight climate change through, developing scale renewable activities. And I think the word scale is really important because I think that's the key to what the private sector can bring to this equation is a degree of scale and commitment and expertise that, frankly, governments don't necessarily have. And if they can crowd in investment from private capital, then I think that will be part of the solution. But it's not just dollars for investment, it's also expertise. If you look at the renewable sector globally, there's about somewhere between 275 and 300 trillion of requirement to change the world's energy system. 90 trillion of that is probably just simply renewables. That's a big number. And it's a big number, I think, that if it was left to the fiscal balance sheets of governments and countries, it would be hard to get done. So the quantum, that's why scale is so important here, the quantum of being able to get things done, to be able to bring expertise to bear, I think, vital elements. Investors are telling me that, there are many of them who are bought into the story of climate change. There are some who are not. But even those who have bought into the story or brought into the story, they still need to, satisfy their own fiduciary requirements. So they still have to earn the right risk-adjusted returns for their beneficiaries and stakeholders. And I think one of the challenges for the private sector, particularly crowding in capital from other parties, is to craft an investment proposition that is both robust, valid, has got good tailwinds, but also is well managed from an investment perspective. Because ultimately, the pension funds, the sovereign wealth funds, the insurance companies, the large families that typically finance institutional capital, they require a risk-adjusted return that suits their own requirements and their own stakeholders. So I think that's one of the advantages I think that having private sector in is to bring that discipline, investment discipline, and to marry up those investor needs with what's available. And not every project will be for everyone, but I think there is certainly a case, given the quantum, to bring in that external capital from private investors.
Thanks, Neil. And on that, so what do you think the challenges are that are facing the funds themselves today to accomplish these goals? You talk about expertise, and there are many funds that seem every day to be coming into the market to be part of this decarbonization effort. But it would be great to understand your thoughts around that.
Yeah, sure, Jen. I mean, the way I see it, first of all, is investors are not one large homogenous group. They all have different needs and requirements, but I think there are some consistent themes. And one of them is this ability to deploy at scale. The second is, what I would call operational expertise. So, I think there is a degree of engineering, asset management, technical expertise that I hear increasingly and have heard. I've been in this business, as you know, Jen, for far too long, a quarter of a century plus. So, I've noticed that the dialogue has changed much more towards bring me people who want to invest in this space, who are knowledgeable, who have experience, who know what a turbine blade looks like. They know how to put up a wind farm. They know how to connect a solar farm to the grid. They know all the things that are going to happen along the way, or at least have some knowledge of them, and then they can manage those risks appropriately. So that deep operational expertise, super important. And then, from our perspective at Low Carbon, we have some 55 people in a firm of 250 who are involved purely and solely in those activities. So, the ability to develop that deep operational expertise in-house, I think, is critical. And that's one of the things that I would say has changed over the last 4 or 5 years, and particularly where I was previously. But looking now, I see that theme is only getting stronger. The good news is that, we're at the start of the journey. I've been in this business for 25 plus years. I would say there's more happening now than there was historically by a large order of magnitude. There's a lot more that needs to happen. And hopefully out of COP28, we will see a commitment from, a continuing commitment from governments, but also solving some of the more difficult problems. And as we know, COP28, as it is now moving to the Gulf, there's been challenges because there's obviously a large oil and gas sector in the Gulf. But there's a large oil and gas sector in the United States, and there's still development going on there on the renewables front. I think our view is that we have to keep pushing hard, both public and private sector, because this problem is not an easy one. It's not one that can be kicking the can down the road either, because it's an immediate problem. And I think technology is moving. I think that if you just simply look at the cost of renewables from a levelized cost of energy perspective, or LCOE, look at the decline in costs in the last 10 plus years, it's been extraordinary. And I think that needs to continue. And I think we need to take advantage. And as we stand today, renewables are, in general, if I could generalize, renewables are in most cases the cheapest source of electricity. So we need to continue to focus on delivering the cheapest source of electricity we can in a sustainable fashion, and figuring out how we manage to transition from heavy fossil fuel to hopefully in my lifetime a fully renewables plus storage solution for the world's energy complex. I think that'd be terrific. And so I'd be able to say to my kids and my grandchildren when they appear that this will be, I think, a moment in time where we are seeing, in the process of seeing, the largest transformation in any system globally ever. Mm-hmm. So this transformation is enormous, and it needs us all to put our shoulder to the wheel, which hopefully I'm going to be doing in COP28 in Dubai.
Fantastic. Thank you, Neil. As always, your insights are fantastic, and we really appreciate your time. Have a safe trip, and look forward to catching up on your return.
Thanks, Jen. Nice to see you.
Take care.
Bye.